Welcome to Selner's Minis. My name is Scott. In this video, I am going to do part 1 of my TerrainTile and Terrain build. As you can see, there are a number of objects in front of me and things that I'm going to use for this build. But before we get too far ahead, I would like to take a moment to ask you to like, comment, and or subscribe to my channel, as it will help me grow. So for this project, I have a few items for the terrain tile. The first is this lovely florist mat that I found at Michael's. It's 12 by 12, though the little sticker said 14 by 14. I think if I stretched it out, it would be that long. But I'm going to use that to do the measurements on the cardboard I'm going to use. And initially, I thought I could use scissors on this. No. Instead, I had to opt for a box cutter. This is a simple box cutter that I got many years ago. As always, with sharp objects, please be careful. I know everybody says to cut away from you, but honestly, the best control that most people have is cutting towards them. The difference is a dull versus a sharp implement. As always, take precautions. I didn't wear gloves for this, but I could have. Either way, we're going to go ahead and cut this cardboard to size. After I had cut the cardboard, I had to cut the styrofoam. The styrofoam luckily was 12 inches across, so I just used the cutout cardboard as a reference and went ahead and made several passes with the box knife. And after I'd done that, I turned it over and just popped it loose. After I was done with cutting the styrofoam, I went ahead and started to glue down the cardboard to the styrofoam. I used wood glue. This is probably the best bond between the two particular materials. I'm going to go ahead and run this along all the edges and very carefully put the board on here. And it's not shown here, but after I did that, I went ahead and placed some books on top of the cardboard and styrofoam to keep the cardboard from warping. I'm not exactly sure why I decided to do this the hard way. So I had a little bit of the cardboard sticking past the styrofoam despite the measurements and lining it up. And instead of taking the grass mat off the styrofoam, because it is not glued down yet, I made my life difficult and decided I needed to clean it up with it on top of it. Probably just to see how it would look with it. But I could have done that after removing it, and it would have made this a whole lot easier. So learn from my mistake. You don't need to have the mat on top while you do this. If you think it is not even, go ahead and fix it without having to have this mat if you use one in your way. After I had cleaned up the edge between the styrofoam and the cardboard, I needed to adhere the grass mat to the styrofoam. For this, I used wood glue. Now, I made a mistake here, and you're going to see it. For those who've done these things before, you're probably going to notice it right away. For those of you who don't know, I did a great job in spreading the glue all over the place, except for the most important region, the edges. In the future, I am going to use a glove to smear this around a little bit more. After I had put all the glue down, I put the mat on top of it, and to help weigh the mat down onto the styrofoam, I used several books. Again, I didn't show this, but I did it. After I was done with that and the tile was dry, I took it outside to give it a matte varnish. The matte varnish is mostly to keep the fibers from the grass mat from continuing to fall out. Before I did this, the grass fibers kept falling off this thing like crazy. I have grass fibers all over the place in my studio currently. After that was dry, I came inside and I started to apply several different types of grass tufts and adhering it to the mat with white glue. This is mainly so that I can provide some visual interest and variability in the mat itself. A couple of things to keep in mind when you go to do this yourself. If you happen to go the route I did, which is buy a grass mat from a craft store and make a tile this way, and you begin to do the whole process of gluing down grass tufts, check the hue of the grass on the mat and the hue of the grass tufts that you're putting down. Now these first grass tufts that I'm putting down are pretty light in color, you can see them. However, I picked some older ones I had. They looked like a darker green that they should show up, but as you can see, they are very similar in hue once you put them down on the mat, and they're very hard to see in general. So once this was all done, I wanted to paint the edges of this tile. I did not want them to be white. I know that styrofoam does not take paint well, so after talking to some friends and doing some looking online, Mod Podge seems to be the solution. Now, smart me would have taken the Mod Podge and mixed it with the paint. I did not do that. As you can see, I just went around and added Mod Podge to all the edges, making it very difficult for me to tell what I had done and not done. So in the future, I will be adding a little bit of paint to it so I can see where I am on this process. However, I did go around and did all the edges, and once that was dried, I went in with this paint. This particular paint was in the Joann Fabrics section for Terrain. Now I know it's just craft paint, and burnt umber has a slightly translucent quality to it. So as you can see, as I'm putting it on the first layer, you can still see the white. Don't worry, I went ahead and did it twice to get full coverage. After that was dried, I went ahead and started looking at what the next steps for this build will be. I am going to work on the pedestal and the statue next. I am going to show you some concepts for the pedestal to provide some variety. I said this at the beginning, but I'll say it again. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel to help it grow. This is the end of part 1, and I will see you next time.